And hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. This is the Creative Careers in the Film Industry, part of the Tennessee Entertainment webinar series hosted by the Arts and Business Council of Greater Nashville and supported by the Tennessee Entertainment Commission. My name is Annie Brocious, and I'm the program coordinator at the Arts and Business Council. It takes a diverse collection of incredibly talented creative individuals to bring any film project to life. So in today's panel discussion, we'll be discussing the wide range of options for artists contemplating possible careers in the film industry. So just a little bit about the Arts and Business Council. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization that provides business education, resources, and opportunities to the creative community, and also connects the business community to the arts to foster workplace creativity and innovation. Our overarching mission is to leverage and unite the unique resources of the arts and business communities to create a thriving, sustainable, creative culture in Nashville and beyond. Some of our key programs include education, webinars and seminars like the one you're attending today, as well as intensive entrepreneurial training for artists, training for business professionals to join the boards of arts organizations, and an annual professional development conference, Creative Exchange, coming up October 1st, with an epic arts party happening September 30th, the day before, called Nash Art Bash. And we also run the Volunteer Lawyers and Professionals for the Arts, VLPA, as a referral service that provides pro bono and legal business assistance to income qualified artists and arts organizations. So you can learn about all of these programs on our website, abcnashville.org. And of course, follow us in the Tennessee Entertainment Commission on social media and sign up for our newsletters to get updates on all of our upcoming events, opportunities, and programs. I will put items up in the chat shortly. So I'm going to show you a quick video from the Tennessee Entertainment Commission talking about the impact of the film, music, and entertainment industries in the state of Tennessee. So we always like to highlight that number, $6 billion. The entertainment industry brings $6 billion annual impact to the state of Tennessee. One of the reasons we're excited to partner closely with the Tennessee Entertainment Commission to support music, film, and entertainment here. So thank you, Tennessee Entertainment Commission, for supporting all of these great industries. So let's get to the panel discussion. I'm happy to introduce you today to our moderator, Andy Van Roon. Andy Van Roon is founder and general manager of FilmCom, a business development conference for feature films, television, and documentaries, now in its 13th year. So far, it's brought 300 industry executives to establish relationships with the creators of over 700 projects. Andy, would you like to further introduce yourself to the group?
No, I think
okay.
I think that's adequate, and that's plenty. Is there anything else you want to say, Annie? Otherwise, I'll introduce everybody else.
Oh, you can go right ahead and introduce everyone.
Okay, yeah, we can certainly make available the contact information of all of our panelists today to anyone who's tuning in. I'd rather get now to introducing our panelists one at a time. I'm just going to introduce everybody, first of all, by their title, and then we're going to go back and everyone can talk about how they got involved in what they're doing. I'm going to start with Hazel Joyner-Smith, who's the founder and CEO of the International Black Film Festival. And the next person is Lynda Evjen, who's the president of Women in Film and Television in Nashville. Next person is Jeff Chase, who's president of the Tennessee Screenwriting Association. And the next person is Jeff Cook, who's president of the Nashville Composers Association. All these people are just amazing human beings and have done tons of work for the community. Hazel, let's go back to you, and then each of the people I introduced to give a sense of how you got involved in, everything you're doing now, just how you got involved in it to begin with, going back to Fisk and everything else.
Well, good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. So many times, and as we know, it's unintentional when you see new faces and new people that you haven't seen before. Many times you've forgotten about, you may be forgotten and not included in the whole process of things that's going on. So I'm happy to be here today to talk about, the things that we know about the film industry. I got involved through another position that I was in at Fisk University at the Race Relations Institute, because we were a 501c3 representing an HBCU. And through a collaborative grant with the Nashville Film Festival and Fisk coming in as a partner, I took on the role of, through my director, Dr. Raymond Winbush, setting up a collaborative effort to involve the African-American community in Northern Nashville into the film industry. Not that the people of color were not involved in film in some kind of way, but in an intimate level, a more involved level of having to make sure that the opportunities and accessibility was offered to people from North Nashville. And Fisk was an ideal place for that to happen because, and most people may not be aware of that, because of the president, the former president, Dr. Charles S. Johnson, was known as the godfather of the Harlem Renaissance. And when he became the president of Fisk, he brought with it all of the Renaissance art and creative community came with that. And he encouraged that and built a supportive base. Fisk became the supportive base in the South for the creative arts. So it's a natural fit.
Thank you, Hazel. Lynda, you want to tell us how you got involved in the industry and how you got started? Lynda, you're on mute.
I was a film commissioner in California before I came here, and I'm an old actress and have done movies since the 1960s and 70s. And I came to Nashville and I joined the organization that was already in place. I had met with the International Women in Film and Television and knew that Nashville was one of the leading areas for film development. What I have found is that many of our members, we're over 600 members now with 3 affiliates through Arkansas, Alabama, and Louisiana. And what I've found is that these are women and men who are looking for opportunities to work and be in the film industry and to learn more and more about what the film industry is here in Tennessee and what it means to be active with the film industry in any capacity. And we have implemented WIFT Academy this last August through October, and that's going along really well with lots of mentorships and over 25 students. So we're really excited about what's happening in our industry, and I'm honored to be the president, and I am thrilled to still be acting. I just did Mrs. Santa Claus for a Tanya Tucker Christmas movie. So how about that?
I did see that. Lynda, were you in any of those bikini beach blanket?
Go ahead, tell us, Lynda.
In the 1960s?
Well, I did tour with Bob Hope and tap danced and did a nurses doctor routine with the veterans overseas, and my mother cried and didn't want me to do that, but I did that when I was 19.
My mother cried a lot, but for whole other reasons regarding things that I was doing. Jeff Chase, tell us how you got involved in the industry overall.
Well, I moved to Nashville in 1985 after couple of successful careers in advertising and real estate to pursue what I thought was my first love, songwriting, and spent basically 13 years full-time as a Nashville songwriter. Got some cuts here and there, but nothing like the success that I was dreaming of. So I thought, mid 90s, I thought, I don't want to be pushing a shopping cart down Broadway when I'm 60 years old. So I started an IT company and web design and IT support for a number of different companies. And then sort of shut that thing down about 6 years ago and went back to my first loves of songwriting. And I had discovered screenwriting and acting years ago. Acted in a couple of movies, starred in one with Robert Carradine. So at any rate, I'm back now to what I consider really my first love, which is writing, specifically screenwriting. And that led me a number of years ago to become vice president and then president of the Tennessee Screenwriting Association after I sort of semi-retired from my day job of IT. For the past 6 years, I've been probably written about 12 scripts, the last 5 of which all have recommends. Last month, I got a double recommend on one of them. So I'm very happy pitching now to producers and managers in LA, making a lot of contacts, and still president of the Tennessee Screenwriting Association, which is a great organization. I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about that a little bit later.
We will. Thank you for that beautiful summary. And let's talk though about that Cobra behind you. So
that's I saw a car when I was 16 years old standing in foot-deep snow up in Michigan, outside Detroit, where I kind of grew up. And it was a green Cobra. And it's the first time I'd ever seen one live. It was pushing its way through the snow. And I thought, what idiot is driving that? But it was the most beautiful car I had ever seen in my life. I said, someday I've got to have one. 2008 came around and I realized I did not have $1 million in spare change sitting around for a real one. So I decided to build my own. And that's what I have there. It performs just like a real one, looks just like a real one, but I saved about $950,000. So.
Right.
well, and I have ridden in that little beast, and it was quite a thrill, I must say. Thank you for that. Jeff Cook, my favorite composer in the city of Nashville. Go ahead and tell us how you got involved with musical endeavors.
Musical world, sure. So I came to Nashville for college, so I went to Belmont. And after graduation, I got on tour with Lori Morgan at a really big Christmas tour that she did. And discovered that I did not want to be a road musician after that, even though it was a fantastic experience. And so I made the pivot to doing music for film and TV. It took a couple of years, but I eventually got there. And I got into doing that just by telling everybody that I'm a film and TV composer. And everybody said, oh, this guy's a film and TV composer. What have you composed? And I said, well, give me something to compose and I'll show you. And so they did. And they said, well, we got this show, it's on A&E, it's a primetime show. Why don't you give it a shot? And I didn't realize what a big deal it was, but it was a primetime show at A&E. It had Richard Karn was the star of the show, which you remember, he played Al in Home Improvement. And so it was right on the heels of Home Improvement. And so it was a pretty big deal. If I realized what a big deal it was, I probably would have been much more nervous than I was. But anyway, so I did the first couple episodes, they loved it. And the next thing I know, I was commissioned to do the entire series. Producers on that show then were working on other shows, and they started grabbing me for other series. The next thing I know, I'm incredibly busy doing all kinds of TV work. And so that's what I've been doing since. And then also started getting into doing advertising music, film music, feature film music, shorts, planetarium music. And gosh, I still do some touring, but just not full time, like on the road for months or weeks on end. So
You're a keyboardist?
I'm sorry?
Or is it a keyboardist or is a horn player?
Oh, keyboard, yeah, keyboard. I do play trombone, but people usually don't hire me for that. So I did play one paid trombone session last year, but mostly it's keyboards what I do.
I think a tuba would look really good on you.
Yeah, I don't know anything about valve instruments, but yes.
Oh, okay. Well, now we're going to return to the round where everybody talks about specifically about what their organizations do. Hazel, tell us a lot more about the International Black Film Festival.
Okay, well, the International Black Film Festival, actually, I first started with this in the year 2000. And we were on campus because that's where the first initiative started, on campus at Fisk University. And such a round of acceptance from the community that we realized that there needed to be something for the community ongoing always, especially for African American communities, because they're underrepresented in the film industry. Recognizing that, we moved to become independent of the university in 2006. We moved into the city and started the International Black Film Festival. And we've been going strong as an independent film festival ever since. And since then, we've had quite a few things that have happened with the festival, and a few successes. And, along with the struggles and the challenges of the many things that, had started an organization, being in an industry that you don't know a lot about, leaning on people like Andy and Lynda and Jeff and all of the others in so many ways to help teach us about an industry that we didn't have the advantage of being a part of, nor did we have access to. So it has been a challenge, and a lot of things we've learned, we've introduced. We think the entire state of Tennessee, all communities, to people of color who have been in the film industry and interested in getting into the film industry if they're not in the film industry, and opening doors for people to know one another and to see how we can collaborate and continue to grow a business that is inclusive of everyone. So we're pleased to see the growth that's taken place across the country in terms of seeing more people of color as not only in front of the camera, but as directors, writers, producers. And our goal is to continue to guide and help open the door to see more people enter into that door. There are extremely large programs going on right now with introducing kids from HBCUs, that's historically Black colleges and universities, into the industry. And so out of the 105 HBCUs that are in the United States, 98.9% of them are in the South. So, and we have 4 that are located right here in Nashville, Tennessee. So what we are trying to do is we have strategically placed ourselves in everybody's campus, whether they wanted us or not, to say, hey, look, here's some opportunities and here's some places where you can become a part of the ready workforce. This is a door open for you. So that's what we do.
That's fantastic. And you've done so much valuable work, Hazel. And I've attended many business panels there, and some wonderful seminars, and seen many great films and some groundbreaking films there. So you are doing some amazing work, and you definitely need as much support from our community as possible. Because I know it's tough to be out front running a nonprofit organization on an annual basis. It's the work never stops. So
it never does. And I must say that we can give names of students who have gone on and found themselves in leading roles and in front of the camera, behind the camera, in executive positions. And we're very, very, very pleased to see that happen, and hope to introduce you to more students and more emerging filmmakers that are coming forward, and not just from Tennessee. Because we're in place, people reach out to us from South Africa, from all over the continent and other parts and the Caribbean, asking, can you help us with our film? Get our work into so it can be seen. So we also an advocate, and we help to pitch ideas from worthy ideas to those in the industry.
Thank you, Hazel. That's fantastic. We'll return to you. Lynda, can you tell us about all the wonderful things that Women in Film and Television Nashville does? I know there are many. You're muted again.
I'm most proud of an online magazine that we started 2 years ago and have been able to produce it every month with ideas of people that are out there doing things. We try to showcase women that are working, and we also do sections about men, and it also has advertisements about where to get jobs and things like that. So I'm very proud of that, and that's a collaborative effort with our board that makes that happen every month. And
Let's
then
talk about the name of that magazine.
yes, it's called Real Luminaire, and you can see all the past issues on our website at www.wiftnashville.org, and you can see all the current issue and all the past issues. And that's one thing I'm very, very proud of. And then the Tennessee Entertainment Commission funded us to do this WIFT Academy, and I'm extremely proud of that. And we toured yesterday one of the major studios that's out in Columbia, and Spring Hill. And it was an old Saturn facility that was a training facility that they've turned into a studio, and they're going to build some more things that will have 50-foot ceilings. So once we have that, you know, we have 18 schools here in Tennessee that do teach film and film work. And if we don't have jobs for these students, they're going to go other places outside of the state to get work. And I want them to have work here in Tennessee. With the FilmCom years ago, about 5 years ago, we started ActorCom as part of Women in Film. And that was a facility where we bring in casting directors from around the world to see the actors that we have here in town. And they get one-on-one with those casting directors. And so that's been most successful in casting many, many people in their roles. And our mission is to empower and support the people in the industry, no matter what nationality, color, or creed that they are. We don't care. We want them to succeed. And we do a monthly luncheon where we bring interesting people in to speak at the luncheons. Last month, we had a young woman who is in 22 countries with her webinar and doing a great job. And next month, we have Joe Leshy, who's the voiceover coach. And every month we have a different speaker. And I'm very proud of the things that we've done. We partnered with the IBFF for the Oscar night, and that was a huge success. And we're all talking about what we're going to do at Christmas time or holiday time, whatever we want to call it, and make it really inclusive of all the organizations. But I'm ecstatic about the young people that are coming out of these schools and that are wanting to work and wanting to learn. And we have a 15-year-old child who's in the WIFT Academy this time, and he is loving every step of it. And, you know, that's a young person who doesn't really know what he wants to do in the end. And maybe he'll be a filmmaker, maybe he'll be a crew person, maybe he'll be an actor. We don't know. And to give him that opportunity to see all sides of the business is very exciting to me, and something that we should be proud of, and that we should promote here through Hazel's group, through Jeff's group, through Jeffrey's group, with film writers and all that. We need to support all of these places with these students that are coming out of these 18 film schools that are here in Tennessee.
Amen. Thank you, Lynda. That's a real critical issue here, because this particular webinar is being geared for persons in other arts disciplines or related to them. But I think that ABC Nashville, could record this, because Annie has talked about this. We've talked about it, but this could also be this particular webinar could be, once it's recorded, it could also be shared with schools in our area at the high school level, simply so that they have so that all students at the high school level, if they can see this webinar, they can understand that there are different organizations here, there are different opportunities, there are different pathways into the industry. So that's, hopefully we're going to accomplish a little bit of that today. Thank you, Lynda. Jeff Chase, the TSA was the first group that I got involved with, thanks to Amy Moreland, when I first moved to this town in 1994. It's the hardest working, well, the longest working group in show business around here. I think it got started, in 1987? Why don't you talk about the TSA and how it got going and what it's doing now?
Yeah, it was started in 1987. I cannot remember the founders' names at this very moment.
Steve
but it's been
Womack
around. I'm sorry, what?
Steve Womack was involved, I think.
That's right. Yeah, Steve was involved. Used to be at Watkins. Number of people who have gone on to success were involved initially. We meet every week and have met every week since then. There's every once in a while there's a week that we miss, but for the most part we meet weekly, Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Online, up until what happened 2 years ago with the bug. We were meeting in person. We're meeting on Zoom now. We may get back to regular meetings, but I kind of like the online thing that we have. It's not as personal, not as tactile, but people who are living, who don't live in Nashville, can get to us. We have people actually from around the world who join us. We meet, like I say, every Wednesday, 7 p.m. You can get information about how to get on the Zoom call by going to tenscreen.com. It's TENN screen, SCREEN.com. tenscreen.com. That's our website. We typically, the format is we have an hour and a half. It's divided into 3 half-hour segments. We have a policy in place where anybody can join the meeting, but in order to present information or present a log line, a synopsis, or pages, you have to be a member. Typically, pardon me, membership is $25 a year. It's not going to break anybody's bank, but it's great. So we have the meetings divided up into 3 segments, half hour each. Members can sign up in advance, a week or 2 weeks in advance, for one of those spots, either to present starting off a log line. Next meeting would be a synopsis. Next meeting would be up to 12 pages of a screenplay, teleplay, that kind of thing. we have it structured that way because a lot of people, myself included, everybody, when they get started, they think what they just wrote is the best thing since sliced bread. And when they present it to other people, it's really soggy, wet, horrible, ugly bread. So that's why we sort of have it structured that way. It is a great place to learn. We have members who have had successful movies as writers, as producers, as directors. One of our members, I think, has had 17 movies produced.
Wow.
We also have people who are just getting started who don't know how to spell the word screenwriting, like I messed up a little bit ago. I put an E after the N. So it's sort of it's a melting pot for everybody dedicated to encouraging and increasing and working with the craft of screenwriting. It is a craft. It's like any other trade, that there are basic fundamentals that you have to learn, especially if you're trying to pitch to the major markets of New York, LA, Atlanta, Chicago, or Nashville. And so there are certain rules to be followed, but there's also ways to break those rules to make yourself stand out. Obviously, there's a lot of examples of great writers, Tarantino and some of the other people who have broken a lot of rules, but they knew the rules before they started to break the rules. And that allowed them to stand out and give us sort of push the industry forward. So that's basically who we are. It's a great organization. It's a lot of kindred minds. If you have an interest in writing screenplays or writing for TV, it's a great place to go. We do have some novelists and journalists who are members, but in the TSA meetings, we typically just keep that tied to screenwriting and to TV writing. So that's basically who we are. Oh, and typically we've always had one or two educational seminars every year where we bring in a couple of top writers, question and answers, have a number of different programs. Obviously with COVID, we haven't been able to do that, but I'm hoping that sometime in the next 3 to 6 months, we'll do another one of those. And of course, we'll heavily publicize it. It's a great way, if you have interest in screenwriting, like I say, to learn from the experts, the guys. We always try to bring in 1 or 2 A-list writers. Those are the writers that, all they do is write something, they call it their agent, and it gets sold the next day for $500,000 to $5 million. They know what they're doing. And it's great to hear these people talk. They have the same fears and peccadillos that we have. They're just normal people. And so that's what we try to be, as normal people at TSA. And that's about it.
Thank you, Jeff. I really admire someone who can use peccadillo in a sentence. And we're going to return to you for some of the pragmatic stuff that the
Sure.
TSA does. Jeff, can you please elaborate on what the National Composers Association does?
Sure. So we started the NCA, probably close to 20 years ago or so. And we started it because there wasn't any kind of support for people who write for things other than songwriting. So there was plenty of support in town for songwriters, but there wasn't anything really to support people who wrote for theater or the concert stage or film and TV or choral works, things like that. So we started the National Composers Association to support writers along those lines. And not that we exclude songwriting or anything like that. We've even done some songwriting events, but we just put our focus on composing for these other things. And because I'm a film and TV music guy, that's kind of been our focus in my tenure as the president. So we do all kinds of events throughout the year. Of course, we've had an interruption with COVID, but prior to that, we did ScoreCom was probably our single biggest event, in which we would bring in some major film composer and have them come in and talk to us about what they do, how they do it. Let's see what else we do. We had a masterclass series. We provide opportunities to composers, people who are interested in doing this. So a lot of times we'll get inquiries from filmmakers saying, hey, we need composers for this. And we'll pass those on to the membership. We have a lot of mixer events as well. I think we're going to have one. I think we're going to start it up again this fall, we hope, in person. So Our events are open to anyone and everybody. And let's see, most of them are free. A few of them we charge a little bit for. Our fees are just to cover our expenses, and our membership is $50 a year. And most of what that does, that it just gives us some money to work with, so we can do these things. Let's see, what else can I say about it? Anyways, that's what we do in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. I think now we're going to drill down into the core purpose of this panel, and that's basically to elaborate on potential film careers. Because we have a diversity of panelists here, I think, from each of you, Hazel and Lynda and Jeff, if we can kind of analyze from your perspective the glide path through your organization into the industry, but also just sort of your perspectives in general about how people can get into the business. Hazel, let's start with you and the paths that the IBFF can make. I know you've had, like you were indicating, you have like significant, platforms in the IBFF to help people, not simply be artists, but, move further along in the industry. So this section of the discussion is really more about pragmatic ways to get into the industry, ferret out some sort of a career path, and let's focus less on the art at the moment and more really on how to have business opportunities in the business itself. Hazel, what are your perspectives on that?
Well, almost like anything else, we'd like to start at the level of awareness. What is it that you know about the industry? And so we try to help make sure that the intended participant or the person who's interested or group that's interested is aware of the industry that they are interested in, by bringing in people who are actually participants in the industry. That's one thing that we are heavy on in terms of how we recruit and how we inform the general public about like the film industry. Many times we just know, oh, that was a great film. I saw it at the movies, and that's just about it. And we may focus on the artist alone but without what it takes to move into the industry. So we'd like to open the door to all of the avenues of the things that will equip you to be, if you're truly interested in going into this industry, what it's about. And that's the major reason that we emphasize, and people ask us, well, we've got, say to us, well, why are you bringing this person here? And why are you bringing, spending this money or this energy to bring a person in like this? Why? Because they're in the industry and they can tell the participant, the person interested, better what it's like than I can, because I'm almost like they are, trying to find out what it's all about. So we like to put faces in front of people who actually do this on a day-to-day basis. Not dismissing anyone that's in the local area, but you know how it is when your parents can tell you something all day long, someone you care about, but unless a certain person tells you, someone across the street, Jeffrey tells you, because he's written all of these books and he's got all these script plays and these successes, then it becomes more surreal to you. So we use that as a way to help people to understand what it's going to take and the level of commitment and where you have to prepare yourself in order to be a contender in this field. So, we like to give real life incidences of ways that you can enter in, connecting with people, knowing how not to burn bridges, knowing how important it is to build good relationships. And also, you know, that just doesn't include the person that wants to go into the industry. What we found is that we also have to nurture the community, to nurture an audience on how to receive the industry that we so admire. So, you know, one of the things that we really had to do was, you know, most people go to the movies and you get up and leave. So we had to work with audiences to be able to listen to a talk back, and why that is important to the emerging, to the new filmmaker. You know, so it's nurturing all the way around, especially in communities where you may not have had that kind of exposure before. Not every community may need that, but you must recognize those communities that do. So that's where we placed our focus, and we placed our emphasis in our connections with the people that we work with in LA and Chicago, New York, and around. You know, we said, look, this is where you come from. Please come back. Please lend the things that you've learned and be a part of what we are doing.
That sounds great. Hazel, we're going to return to you because we've got some interesting questions from the audience here. One of them is a very tough question, but we'll return to that after everyone else has a chance to speak. Lynda, what are the pragmatic glide paths through women in film and television, but also what do you see as the opportunities from your perspective for people trying to get into the business, particularly actors, because you can really speak to that whole thing.
Yes. Well, you have to be realistic about your acting career, and everything that Hazel said is true. You have to have mentors. You have to have people that are doing things. In the acting community, I like to say rejection is God's protection. And yeah, because think about all the rejections that you get, but right. You have to keep and keep your goals in concrete and your plans in sand, because you don't know how you're going to get there, but if your goal is the same. Acting is a unique opportunity, and you have to be realistic about who you are and what you are and where you are in your life for acting, and not be looking for things that don't fit you or don't belong in your category. I had a young woman come to me, and she was blonde and cute and blue-eyed and was in LA, and she said, I can't get a job. And I said, well, she was going to these videos, you know, music videos. And I said, well, when you finish your project, would you ask them if there's any other thing that you could audition for? Is there a friend in this movie or in this video, or is there somebody that walks through? Is there something else that I could do rather than the lead? Because sometimes I think you look too much like everybody else in the world. And I also told her to change her hair up a little bit, put it up in a ponytail, or do different things with herself, and also to create a video of herself doing something that's really a little bit unique, because sometimes you might have an accent, or you might have a funny, you might have good comic timing, and they don't always see that in an audition. So anyway, I did get a note from her the other day that she's getting jobs from what I told her to do. And I'll tell you another funny story. My best friend Connie and I went to audition for a movie, and there was the mother was the key role. And I looked at the sides, and there was a desk clerk. And so I knew Connie wanted the mother role. So I went in at the audition and said, how about the desk clerk? And the director said, well, it's a man. And I said, who said it has to be a man? Couldn't it be a woman? And so they let me read it. And sure enough, they rewrote the character and gave me a big part. So
Wow.
see, sometimes you have to really think outside the box and remember that rejection sometimes is what you need to move on. And but that's, you know, but mentorship is really important, I think, with anything. And keeping yourself as an actor, you need to still take classes no matter how old you are.
Right.
Well, Lynda,
Yeah.
just briefly, what are the pragmatic steps that a person needs to take if they want an acting career? In other words, like talk about talent agents and all that kind of stuff.
Well, yes, we have agencies here in town. Talent Trek is one of them, and there's many. And when my career, I had a personal agent who died, and then we came to Nashville, and I went to work for Talent Trek. But you need to get with an agency. You need to find an acting teacher, and there's quite a few acting studios here in town and people that do it. Tina Gallo teaches Stanislavski method, which is one of the methods that I learned growing up. And I had an opportunity to go to the actor studio and got married. So that's the end of that. But you have to polish your craft and go to acting classes and get into the acting community and find, because a lot of things are referral basis, you know, but you need to have an agent. And there are agencies and things that you can look up and find the legitimate ones, and just do your job to see which one you like and which one likes you and helps you. You know, an agent can really help you and hone in on what's good about you. And so that's important. And go to workshops like ActorCom or FilmCom or any of these workshops that any of these organizations, all three of these organizations have good opportunities for actors. Jeff's Chase's organization, I've even read characters for that, haven't I? You know, with some scripts, you know, it's given me kind of fun time to act out some of the words, like Jeff said, when it hits the air, sometimes it doesn't sound as good as it does when you write it, but that's important to have that. And I'll tell you, the Elvis movie, the young man, I heard that Denzel Washington was doing a table read and that his publicist sent him to this table read, and that kid showed up and knew every role in the table read. So Denzel then called Boz and said, you need to look at this kid because he's dedicated. He knew he memorized it. So see, sometimes being prepared is really important, and showing up on time and being committed to things. So, yeah.
Thank you, Lynda. That was very complete. I appreciate that. I just want to pause 1 second here before we get into Jeff and Jeff. Sitting down next to me is a gentleman named Peter Kurland. He is the business agent for IATSE 492. And he's one of the most important people in the state of Tennessee regarding bringing work to town and working with production companies on a large scale. And he helps employ a lot of people in our town. I'm going to let him introduce what IA is all about for a few minutes, and then we'll return back to the sequence with Jeff Chase and Jeff Cook. Peter, you take it.
All right, and I'm sorry to be coming in late. I was in a meeting across the hall and we just got done. And I have missed obviously much of this discussion. So if I'm saying something that's already been covered, then I'm sorry. My organization, the IATSC, is the International Alliance of Theatrical and Stage Employees. We represent people who work in all sorts of motion picture and television crafts, ranging from, grips, electrics, construction people, paint people. The overall organization also covers hair and makeup, office assistants. We cover sound and props and just a variety of different crafts, largely that work in the mainstream professional industry. Again, larger budget motion pictures and television, both series, like TV movies. Right now, we have, I think, aside from the commercial market, we've got about 7 feature films that are shooting right now across the state. There's a movie shooting right now in Dollywood. There's a TV series that starts shooting tomorrow in Memphis. There's several independent films shooting in Nashville. It's about to be a very large budget studio picture shooting in Nashville. We represent the crew who work on those projects. I will say that the big problem we're having, and I guess it's a good problem, is that we have put everybody who we know of that does that kind of work to work right now. There's a shortage of crew currently nationally. There's an equivalent shortage in Nashville and in Tennessee. Our people work all across the country. We also invite people in from other states to work here to help fill in. But we're desperately in need of people. Some of the positions we have are entry-level positions that don't require a lot of training. Some of them are very highly technical. Sometimes there's on-the-job training potential, and sometimes it's helpful to have gone to not necessarily a film school, but to go through some program that teaches the basics of the craft so that you can do the work safely. And some of those, we operate some of those programs. Some of them are operated by the state and some by various production companies that hire our people. And for anybody who's out there who's interested in that kind of work, there's certainly opportunity right now.
How did they get a hold of you, Jeff, to get these jobs?
Oh, well, they can get a hold of us. Our website is IATSE local492.com. And information about our organization and how to join is on that website. You can also, you can reach that through, the Tennessee Film Commission knows who we are and can get you a hold of it. And if you know people who already work in the industry, they will know who we are. You can also email me directly. My personal email is pkurland, PKURLAND, at earthlink.net. And if you have interests in learning more about this, you can just reach out.
Thank you, Peter. Peter, by the way, comes from one of Nashville's outstanding families. His dad, Shelley Kurland, was an incredible string player and was responsible for thousands of recordings in Music City, established an entire sound here that's known around the world. His sister, by the way, is Amy Kurland. She started the Bluebird Cafe. So we have and he decided to, or told her Academy this year he was going to resign. How did that work out?
Well, my problem was that I didn't think they were listening to their members, so I don't think they heard me when I said I was going to resign.
What happened?
So I am now on their Sound Branch Executive Committee. So I now have a job working with the Academy.
Fantastic. That's right. I don't know how detailed you got into the possible film careers, but did you get into that?
I did get into it a little bit. I didn't get into it in depth. I wasn't sure where you were in the conversation.
Okay.
I covered it in general.
Okay. Well,
Andy, you're not coming through for some reason.
Uh,
There you are.
okay, I'm sorry. Well, Peter and I are sitting next to each other. So can you hear me now?
You're breaking up, unless that's me. Is anybody else hearing Andy break up?
You're going in and out.
I don't know why, because I'm sitting right next to Peter. And
He sounds right.
I sound right in the room, but I'm not right in the head. All right, anyway, just talk about what you can hear. Talk about the pragmatic steps that a person needs to take to be a screenwriter. Did you hear that?
Did you say to learn screenwriting?
No, pragmatic steps to make it in the business as a screenwriter. How do they get involved?
Be born with a parent who is a producer, director, or major actor. No. I mean, that's obviously one way you can get in. It is a business like any other entertainment business. Lynda was talking about acting, but whether you are typically I'm talking now behind the camera. Well, I'll talk both. I mean, as an actor, as a writer, as a director, as a cinematographer, you've got to learn the trade. And you learn the trade by self-education, going in, working on sets. I mean, when I first moved to Nashville, I've done a ton of I did a ton of music videos. In fact, I did 5 music videos in a row, each one over 5 years, a lot have been in between, won the CMT Video of the Year, which blew me away. I just got lucky. But I did a lot of those, started working on movies as an actor. I got a little bit part in one of the Ernest movies. And of course I was hooked and did anything I could to volunteer, whatever, on the set there in order to get additional work, maybe get some lines, whatever. So that's sort of the working man's way to do it. But if you got to sort of get out there, I'll just speak specifically to screenwriting. You need to learn what a screenwriter does. And there's a couple of great books. I think probably most of the writers that I know all started with Sid Field's book, Screenplay. It was written, God, I don't know, 40 years ago or more, but it's got a lot of good basics in it. And it sort of lays out what is a screenplay. And basically, the Greeks came up with the 3-act structure. Screenplays traditionally are 3-act structures. It's actually divided into quarters, but there are 3 acts. The first and the third act are a quarter. The middle act, the second act, which is the meat of your story, is basically 2 quarters. And that's the desert that everybody gets into, the lost wasteland, when they think they've got a great idea with no training, no outline, no forethought. They just want to start writing rather than they get to the end of that first sequence or the first act. And all of a sudden you don't know what the heck you're doing. And so that you don't waste time, you can do a lot of free seminars. If you go look, you can join Stage 32 for free. Stage32.com has a tremendous number of free seminars, free webinars, where you can go learn about writing. They also do actors and movie voiceover stuff and radio stuff, but they do a tremendous amount of screenwriting webinars. You can go to Roadmap Writers or Roadmap Writer, I think it's writersplural.com. They have a lot of free seminars where you can learn about screenwriting. You can take classes, screenwritingu.com. I highly recommend them. I have taken a number of their classes. I've taken a 1-month course, a couple of 6-month courses, a 1-year course, and a 2-year course, master's level course. Out of every single one of those courses I've taken, I've come out of it with a script at the end. So there's all kinds of places that you can learn that information. It is a craft, and you have to treat it like a craft. If you want to be a carpenter, you don't go buy all the tools and then show up for work and say, I'm a carpenter. No, you got to learn, first of all, what is a nail? What is a screwdriver? What is a carpenter level? All these things, you have to learn the basics. And that's the same thing you need to do in screenwriting. You need to learn the basics. Like I mentioned before, learn the rules, know what the rules are, and then know how to break them and make yourself set apart from all the other people who are out there. TSA, Tennessee Screenwriting Association, we like to cater to everybody because, like I mentioned before, we have beginners in the group. We have people who have had illustrious careers and rising careers at the moment. But it's where you can go and get really interested and invigorated and uplifted by, if you have a burning desire to learn screenwriting, by going in there and just listening or participate in the meetings. You can, anybody who's there can offer constructive criticism on something that is being presented. Like I mentioned, you cannot present until you become a member, $25 a year. So getting back, sort of circling back, pragmatic approach, read. There's so many great books out there. Go to Google and bring up screenwriting books. You're going to hear different points of view, different opinions, different terminology, but it all boils down to a simple thing that a screenplay is a roadmap for a director, a producer, or the actors to follow to produce a movie and or TV show. It has certain formats. TV formats are a little different than screenplay formats, but it is a format that you need to follow. You have to use the correct typeface. There are certain lengths. You don't write a screenplay that's 470 pages long, unless you're Tarantino. He does that, you know, and then he whittles and whittles and whittles and whittles and gets it down to 96 pages. So that's basically it. Educate yourself. Go to places, organizations, online things, or meetings in town where there is screenwriting is being discussed, and get passionate about it. Like anything else, passion is a great driver of education. And I think that's hope. Oh yeah. And if you come to TSA, if you do present, you get one of these. You don't get the monkey, but you get a monkey. You get the applause. You don't get to keep him.
I've had enough of that monkey.
Yeah, yeah.
We did a lot of that at FilmCon.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
Thank you for that, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Mr. Cook, how does one get their foot in the door as a composer in film, television, or full dome content? How do you get, you know, assuming that you're learning your craft, how do you get jobs?
Sure. Well, let me put it this way. There's good news and there's bad news about this. The good news is there's no one way to do it. The bad news is there's no one way to do it. So if you surveyed 100 composers, film, TV composers, asked them how they got into it, you'd have 100 different stories. So everybody that I know that's doing this has a different way that they got into it. And so, you know, my path or anyone's path might not be the same one that works for you as well. So really what it comes down to is, you know, kind of like going off what Lynda said earlier, that when, you know, it's kind of when preparation meets opportunity. And so, you know, for me, you know, going back to, by way of example, that first job on A&E, I still remember the notes from the producers was, we said, we want whimsical battle music. And can you do that? Oh yeah, sure, of course I can. And I had hung up the phone. I had no clue what they're asking for, so I just took a best shot at it, and it turns out they loved it. So, but again, it's just kind of like being able to translate what it is that they are asking for into music, and then suddenly they started realizing they could depend on me to be their musical translator. So I think that would be the skill set that you need to have in place when that opportunity comes along, and you'd be able to find your way in that way. The other good news, which is real good news, is that to get into doing this now, you don't need as much equipment as you once needed. And so like when I first started, you had to have quite a bunch of gear just to get into the game on a minimum level. And now pretty much all you need is a good computer, and most computers are pretty good. So the price of entry is less than it used to be. So, you know, I think, you know, musically learn as much as you can, learn as much about styles, dissecting styles, because you get asked a lot to do something. Well, we like something like this. and they'll play you something. Can you do something like this that, and it won't, or get as close as this as you can without getting us into copyright trouble. So it's, being able to understand styles and duplicate styles. A lot of times they'll temp scenes with composers from, famous composers from famous movies, and then your job is to make it sound, kind of like that. So being able to dissect those things and figure out what makes styles tick, and being able to deliver that while still making it your own or making it unique to the project that you're on. So I don't know if that helps or not, but that's
No, it was not very helpful at all.
okay. All right. My apologies then.
Thank you, Jeff. Did you want to take this?
Well, I was going to take these two questions that were sort of directed at me, if I can. The first question was whether the jobs I was talking about were part or full time, and it depends on how you define it. People in my industry, they're very full-time jobs. They tend to be 10 to 14 hours per day, 5 to 6 days a week, but for short bursts. So you could be on a feature film that shot 12 hours a day for 2 months. You could be on a TV series that shot 14 hours a day for 6 months. You could be on a TV commercial that shot, 10 to 14 hours, but only for 1 day. And then you'd have time off in between. So it's about, you could really define what your work pattern is. If there's plenty of work, you can sort of pick which thing fits best. The other question I just want to quickly answer about supporting yourself. Yeah, there are people who do independent films and other projects, but then they also work on more commercial films where they make more money, and they do that for a while, and they go and create their own movies, or they work on lower budget stuff that they like better. I know in my career I've worked on movies with budget ranges from a few $100,000 to a few $100 million, and it just sort of depends on what it is. And the bigger movies are certainly more lucrative, but the smaller movies are very enjoyable. And for you in particular, Fritz, don't know exactly what that major and minor consist of, but I will say that right now there's a huge demand for digital imaging technicians, and there's also for media, there's a position for media management of images that sort of cross the line between creative and technical, because they involve preparing the image for editorial, as well as keeping track of all the files that are generated by the cameras and sound department, and making sure everything works together. And there's a big call for that right now. In fact, there's very few people in the state that do that work. And if you've been trained specifically in doing DIT work, that's perfect. But if you haven't been, there's an opportunity to learn that craft, and maybe the skills you already have will work for that. So those are my two answers.
I think I'd like to just provide we're not going to have a chance to get through all the questions, and I've got a list here that Annie sent, and I'm sure that Annie will make our information available to everybody who has signed on to this discussion. But what I do want to provide a sense of the industry, motion picture industry in general, has sort of an end-to-end group of people that start with people who create a concept like Jeff. And then there are people next to that who basically put together pitch decks and business plans. And sometimes they're producers, sometimes they're simply people that understand the business. And they can also be like entertainment attorneys that get involved in their process. I do have a couple of questions here from an attorney or attorneys who want to get involved in business. You're welcome to email me directly about that. But essentially what you're looking at here is an end-to-end industry that starts from concept, goes into packaging, goes into financing, goes into development of private placement memorandums and business plans in order to raise the capital. And then when you're putting together a feature film, it usually involves some equity capital and some lender capital from a bank. Bank capital is usually leveraged by foreign pre-sales agreements. And then that will involve a worldwide sales agent or foreign sales agent that will go territory by territory around the world. They will then do what are called minimum guarantees, and they will basically pre-sell a film with certain attachments to the project worldwide in order to get sufficient collateral to cover the bank loan as part of the overall financing structure. So and when you're talking at the studio level or the mini majors or major production companies, you're talking all sorts of staff that work for those companies. And you're talking about all the production personnel. And Peter's also, produced things like Existo and different projects like that. So it is an industry that I think, as Lynda was saying, and Hazel was indicating, some people wear different hats or many hats. And Jeff was saying that as well, Jeff Chase, about certain entities in our town that have written scripts and have also produced and directed their own movies. But the reality is that the industry itself is comprised of thousands and thousands of people that start on the concept side and are all the way down to the delivery and sales side. And that also includes collections people, so that when a worldwide sales agent is selling to territories around the world, there are people there that can actually collect from all the sales that are made, the revenues that are earned. So it's a very complex business with lots of people and actually lots of business opportunities. It's not all just like one little sector. It's pretty much like an end-to-end industry. So there are many opportunities for you to get involved in, those who are tuning into this thing. And also those who might be looking at this thing as a recording, if you're in high school, just become aware of, a lot of the opportunities that are available to you. One thing that I do want to indicate, though, is that each of these entities that are speaking, Peter and Hazel and Lynda and Jeff, these are gateways. Their organizations are gateways for networking. You get involved with the IBFF, you get involved with Women in Film and Television, you get involved with the TSA, Tennessee Screenwriting Association, you get involved with National Composers, learn more about SAG-AFTRA, learn more about, all the National Filmmakers Guild in town. They're a wonderful group of people that are involved in production and other capacities. We have multiple organizations in the city that are all doing good work. Learn them all. If you need to get their email addresses, you can email Annie. She will contact all of us. We will convey a full list of organizations, but by getting involved with those organizations, those are all networking platforms to get involved in the industry, where once you get involved with those groups, you can learn a lot more about our industry. Everybody here is a fountain of knowledge. So take advantage of that. Are there any other questions you think we should answer, or are any of our guests have concluding thoughts? Because I think we have a hard out at 4:30.
Well, we have a couple more minutes because we did start a little bit late. So I do want to give a little bit of leeway, but I had a couple of questions pop up in here that I would love to have answered. One question was directly for composition, for music composition, but I think it relates to pretty much anything else, is how do you find opportunities as a movie composer when you don't know anyone in the industry? Where do you start when you're at zero?
Want to start with that one? I guess it's talking about composition. Well, let me give you kind of two answers depending on where you are. So if you don't have any experience and you don't have anything on your reel, I would probably start with student filmmakers. There's a lot of great film schools, and I would reach out to student filmmakers there and see if you can ask to score their films. And they would actually probably be thrilled to have someone come in and work on it with them. And then you can build up your reel that way, and so you have something to show. And then let's say that you do have a good reel together. Then the next thing probably I do, as far as meeting people, what you want to do is you want to get to the decision makers for whoever it is that you are, or whatever you're trying to get into. And so, for example, like when you're watching TV shows, look for the end credits producer. Who are the producers? And who are the production companies? And those people you want to reach out to. And if it's a production company, then you want to find out who is the decision maker for hiring music at that company, and try to reach out to whoever that person is. So that's who you want to talk to. And I did a number of those things as well. There's also, what was that publication called? There was a film publication. Anyway, there's some publications that list productions and who is working on them and their contact info. And so those are the people you want to talk to.
And I'd like to add, find a film festival. I'm sure that some of the film festivals, many of them will have someone that's a music supervisor coming, someone that has developed a music bank, or they'll have someone from a movie that is out at the point, that may have been the music supervisor on a movie. So there are many opportunities. Look for the content on film festivals, who they're bringing in, and then track that down. That's part of your passion enough to go after it and your commitment level to do it. You'll find someone there.
And
Yes.
then just to,
There's a 48-hour film festival that would welcome having someone write the music for them. And, that's kind of powerful. And, Hazel's right, get involved in the film festivals. And Andy was right in that all of us can help anybody with anything if they want it bad enough. And I'll give you a little take from my mother. My mother always said, Lynda, if you want to do acting, you better learn typing. So I took a typing class at 7 in the morning. Couldn't make it work very often, but I did it so that I could do my craft. I had to work to do my craft. And so sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to do to be able to reach our goals. But never give up, never give up. I don't care what your purvey is with any film industry or arts organizations. Never give up, never lose sight of what you want to have happen, because it will happen in your life. And sometimes it's not the way we want, but it does come. And I hope that all of you that are listening today will know that your dreams and your ambitions are important.
Peter,
and then
you
I
had a
was-
comment?
Well, I was just gonna to sort of segue from just composers to everybody else. If you're trying to get a break in the film business, the state of Tennessee maintains a creative directory where listings are free. Several of the city film commissions also maintain directories, and if you have a skill that you think is applicable to the industry, even if you've not done a lot of film work before, you can get listed in those directories and producers will know about you. If you have additional, if you feel like you're very qualified in your craft and you're interested in joining with, my members in the union, we take on anybody who applies, and then we will send your resume out to producers and we'll share your information with other members who may be in a position to recommend people to be hired. So
Yes.
knowing
And
people is very
Sam-
helpful, but you don't have to know people in order to get your foot in the door and get your resume or your previous work seen.
Right. And for actors, there's always a SAG-AFTRA, but we are an at-will state. And but you should look into the union for the acting to see what's available for you and how you could get a SAG card so that you're paid the proper wages.
Annie, please,
Yes.
please give us a 5-minute warning.
Sure. We're probably at about 6-minute warning right now. So I do want to get in and squeeze in a question that was directed specifically to Hazel. How have Black filmmakers funded their films? Is funding for Black films readily available?
Well, I guess I think I would be safe to say, I think when you have a project, you're looking for money in any place, and it just doesn't have to be for a Black film or Black project. So recently we just had a film that's going to come to Tennessee, and I'm not at liberty to talk about it but much right now, that got a hefty funding from this gentleman, the writer in his town, and he just looked for people in his town, and he found a person to fully fund his project. And he's so excited. We're excited for him. Sometimes it could be the unexpected place, starting, and I think they may have met at church. So the young writer started telling him about his project, and having no idea that this person would become the person to fund his project, fully fund his project. So it's just, of course, you can look at the normal routes, hedge funds, banks, grants, and things like that. It's the same way if you're Black or if you're white or Asian, whatever. The same avenues are out there for filmmakers. But you may also look in some of the unlikely places, which may be right in your own circle of friends, places like this. Like this young man, he found someone at his church, and we are so excited for him with this project. And that project is going to come to Tennessee, and we're happy about that.
Yeah. Fundraising is an interesting thing. It's like when you throw a rock in the water, the ring that's closest to the rock. And that's what he did. He threw a rock in the water, and the closest to him is who funded him. It's when you get to the other rings way out in the distance that it's harder and harder. But sometimes we forget who we know and who's around us.
But to Hazel's point about whether it's Black, white, or Asian, you still have to develop the same tools for the project. And that is when you develop a screenplay, you're going to do a production schedule or have someone do it for you, have an actor schedule done, which is called the day out of days, have a line item budget done, put together a business plan. And the business plan should indicate what your concept is, what your budget is, personnel involved, the principal characters, target talent, or any talent you've already got attached, target market audience, your distribution plan if you got one. And then these days, the last 10 years or so, people have been putting together pitch decks as kind of a quasi replacement for a business plan. And but the pitch deck is kind of like, a glorified version of a PowerPoint, but they're a lot sexier now. And there's even electronic versions that can be done where you can have links in an electronic pitch deck where you click on a link and it goes to the music you want to use in your movie or your whatever. But you can't get very far unless you basically break down everything, get a real budget, put together a real plan. Some things on a higher budget level will require an entertainment attorney for sure. And those entertainment attorneys can help you put together what's called a private placement memorandum, private offering memorandum, depending upon the state. But those are basically going out to a limited amount of investors in an LLC, limited liability corporation, because it is a security. So, but the bottom line to this message, though, is that regardless of your project, regardless of whether you're Black, white, Asian, or whatever, you want to put together the business materials for it. So get a production schedule, get a day out of days, get a line item budget, put together a business plan, and then put together a pitch deck these days and get all that together as a package, and then go forward to different investor types, whether they're equity. You want to start with equity investors and get as much as you can, because these days you can finance a movie for about 20 to 30% equity, and the rest can be a loan, a debt facility that has to be collateralized, like we talked about before, by certain forms of collateral. The easiest forms of collateral these days are foreign pre-sales agreements. So Annie, is there anything else? Do you have any time left, or is that it?
I think I got to most of the questions here, but we are out of time. However, if everybody wants to I'll be in touch with everybody, all the panelists, on the resources they provided, and I'm going to be sending out an email to everyone who's in attendance with a video of, or with a recording of this webinar, and also all the contact and resource information that our panelists have generously supplied to organizations. So thank you, Andy. Thank you, everyone on the panel, for being here today. And especially thank you, everyone who registered for this webinar. We appreciate you. We appreciate the Tennessee Entertainment Commission. And we'll hope to see you at the next webinar up ahead.